And good afternoon, producer Susan. How are you doing this warm day?
Yeah, it's a little toasty out there. It's the calendar says May, but the weather says July.
I know. Well, we're recording this on the 19th of May. It was 95 in New York City today, close to breaking some records, but not as warm as 1962, but very, very. And it's going to be a few degrees warmer tomorrow. Then the temperature is going to plunge by 30 degrees
Yeah, but
from,
plunge back to normal.
yeah, but it's going to go from 95 to 65 overnight. 95 one day in
Like you
24
saw a
hours.
trooper on the Garden State Parkway.
Yeah, God. All right. And we got Memorial Day coming up, and you got a big deal going on out in your neck of the woods over Memorial Day, don't you?
Yeah, so neighboring town, Boalsburg, Pennsylvania, is the birthplace of Memorial Day. So
Right,
Memorial Day around here is a really big deal.
right. And what is the women? This was what year did the women
Oh,
decide to
I have to look up the year, but it was what goes back to Decoration Day when the women would go and decorate
the
the
graves
graves of the soldiers who
of the
died in the
soldiers?
war.
Right. And it's Boalsburg, Pennsylvania. Where is Boalsburg?
Right smack dab in the center of Pennsylvania.
Center of PA, Central Pennsylvania. Well, good. So, are you going to be going to Boalsburg at all, or?
Absolutely. They on well the fire departments around here are the heart of every local community around here. So the fire department does a big huge carnival for the next 5 days and chicken dinners and fire hall food is a big thing
Yep.
around here in central Pennsylvania. And they'll do the big parade on Saturday evening, which draws fire departments from all over the state. Again, because this being the birthplace of Memorial Day. And then Sunday is more of a solemn
Uh-huh.
celebration. Again, actually celebrating why we have Memorial Day is to honor those who died for our independence and in the war. And then Monday is more of the fun festivities of sidewalk carnivals and car shows and
Well, good. And you're gonna have some good weather. We're gonna have some rain here, but
no,
I think.
actually, it's supposed to rain on and off all weekend.
Oh no. All right. Well, hopefully you get some good outdoor time. All right. You want to hear what we're going to talk about today, or try to talk about?
Yeah, what's on the agenda?
All right. Well, as I said, today's May the 19th. It's Tuesday before Memorial Day. Remember last week we had Congressman Wesley Hunt from Texas
Yeah.
uh, talking about how amazed he was at how a black man like him could get six different forms of picture ID. Well, we have Congressman Wesley Hunt on again, responding. You ever heard of a guy named Stephen A. Smith?
I no, I haven't.
Well, he's a black commentator on ESPN and whatnot, but he's been getting out of his lane into politics. He's a black man, and he's normally a sports commentator, but he's getting more and more political. And he was criticizing Congressman Wesley Hunt when Congressman Hunt responded to him. So we're going to play Congressman Hunt's response to Stephen A. Smith. Um, the stupidest thing.
Oh, I
What?
know. I when you get to him, I know who he is in a totally different light.
Okay. Stupidest thing I've heard all week. We'll tell you what city decided to simply crush 200 illegal mopeds that they had seized instead of simply selling them for cash. If you run a city and you've got 50, $60,000 worth of mopeds, wouldn't you just sell them to an out-of-state buyer as a not individually, but just you take bids for the whole lot? But no, they had to make a big show and run a bulldozer over them.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
why would you not want to get some revenue for your
yeah.
troubles?
And we'll tell you which city did that, and we'll tell you the political stunt they did. Stupidest thing all week. We'll tell you how California decided to handle the issue of making sure that people who needed hearing aids were able to get them. Really stupid way they did it. Um, we'll tell you about how some people are receiving food stamp benefits are converting those SNAP benefits into cash instead of using them to buy food. Talk about creative. And here's one. Have you ever heard the Cars for Kid 1877 Cars for Kids? You ever
Yeah,
heard?
yeah.
You know how long that ad's been on TV or
Oh,
radio
probably a
rather?
decade.
More than 20 years. Well, we'll
Yeah.
tell you what state has just banned them from advertising and why. And you're going to learn some surprising things about Cars for Kids. There's been a lot of commotion and back and forth about redistricting, right? About
Yeah.
Texas
Mhm.
and Maryland and Virginia and California redistricting, midterm instead of waiting for the census. Well, we'll have a clip of an Indiana state legislature explaining why he is not embarrassed to support redistricting in his state in the middle of without waiting for the census. And we've all heard about autonomous vehicles, right?
Yes.
The Waymo and the whatnot. Well, there's a large group of doctors have actually come out in very strong support of more autonomous vehicles, arguing that they could save tens of thousands of lives each year. And I will tell you why those claims might be true. Um, going further, do you ever see the movie Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, that was supposedly based on the life of imposter Frank Abagnale. Well, we'll tell you why that whole story, his Abgad's story, is probably a fake, and how he made hundreds of thousands of dollars off his fake story about being an imposter.
I actually met him though,
Right.
Frank Abagnale. I actually met him. I brought him for a as a distinguished speaker.
And you probably paid him $30,000, which is
Yes, as a matter of fact, we did.
that's what he was getting. Well, guess what? Most of what he claimed what turned out to be a lie. And he got several $100,000 for the book rights, for his story. They made the
Mhm.
movie out of it, and he was getting $30,000 to speak. Well, guess what? The guy was a fraud. Most of what he claimed never happened, and we'll tell you. You didn't know that, did you?
I mean, we brought him here as a speaker, as a lecturer, and he drew a crowd, and people were entertained by his lecture. So that's at the end of the day, that's why we were paying him to
Well,
come in.
it turns out 90% of what he claimed he did, he didn't. Anyway, and our taxpayer relief shot this week comes from Boulder, Colorado. You ever been to Boulder?
I have.
Well, we're talking about a teenage invader, home invader who picked the wrong house to break into. All right, let's roll right into this. So I'm going to open with Stephen A. Smith, and you say you know Stephen Smith. How do you know Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah, so you're probably going to make fun of me for this. Well, one, he's an ESPN commentator, and
Right.
during especially during football season, I pay attention to the ESPN and commentators and whatnot. But he's actually a regular character on General Hospital.
Is he really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. All right. Well, here he is.
He plays Brick, the character Brick on General Hospital.
All right. Well, here he is criticizing Wesley Hunt, who's black. He's a congressman from Texas, who, by the way, was elected in a predominantly white district. And here's Stephen Smith, rather than talk about sports, criticizing Congressman Wesley Hunt for being a conservative. And here we go. Oh, hang on. Why is this not playing with sound? Let me get it back. Huh. It's bizarre. Maybe I need to just do this again because it was playing just fine a minute ago.
Conservative who happens to be black answer such cynicism coming from the other side when they say things like that?
Well, it's very simple, brother. We live in an era to where there are no more slaves and there are no more slave owners. You see, I live in an era of today. My great great grandfather was born on a plantation. His name was Silas Crawford. He was born on Rosedown Plantation, about 30 miles north of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Three of his great great grandchildren went to West Point. Three of his great great grandchildren served in the military. At one point, my brother, sister, and I were all deployed in Baghdad at the same time for 2 months. We had a praying mother and a praying community. One of his great great grandchildren, me, is running for the United States Senate and is surging in the polls against, last I checked, two white guys, because nobody really cares about what I look like. They care about my service to this nation and who I am as a human being. And let me tell you something, brother, I've done all of this as a conservative. The most racist thing that I've kind of seen over the course of the past few years is this, though. It is the insinuation that black people are too stupid to get an ID to vote. You have to have an ID for everything. And Republicans aren't looking at black people or white people or Asian people for Hispanic people. Not at all. They are saying if you're an American and you are competent, you can figure out how to have a cell phone and an apartment and buy groceries and buy liquor and get on airplanes, buy anything. I don't care what you look like. You could be on United, you could be on Spirit, you could be on American. At the end of the day, everybody has to have an ID. That has nothing to do with race. You see, that is the Republican Party that I am currently coming up in right now in this phase. This ain't about the color of your skin. It's about, are you an American and do you bleed red or not?
How do you, as a
And that's our quote. That's our quote of the week.
Mhm.
It's about not about the color of your skin, about are you an American? And that's our
Yeah.
quote of the week from Senator Wesley Hunt. Any thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, no, well said.
Well said. All right. All right. So stupidest thing I've heard all week, and I've got a video here. There's no sound to it, so no sense me playing it. But producer Susan, if you conclude the video, it's only about a
Sure.
45-second video. In Staten Island, which is part of New York City,
Hmm.
they've had a problem with these kids with these mopeds and even some small dirt bikes, just running on sidewalks
Hmm.
and anyway, they've seized several hundred and they've been storing them at a an impound lot in Staten Island. Well, New York City Police Department, to make some political points, lined them all up side by side, probably about, I don't know, probably 75-yard long line, and they had one of these massive Caterpillar bulldozers just just run over and crush. Now you figure these things have to go, even used, what, $250 a piece at least?
Oh, easy.
So, so between 250, 350. So this was 50 to $75,000 worth of perfectly good mopeds. They could have
I mean,
just put,
they could have made some money off of this.
yeah. Now I understand they don't want to sell them one by one because they'd wind up back in the streets of New York City.
But you could
So
sell them to an auction house,
yeah, sell them,
even,
ship them to ship them to an out-of-state auction house, or take sealed bids. Cities do this all the time. They'll take,
Mhm.
they'll sell them as a lot. They'll say, "Hey, we are taking sealed bids for a lot of 250,
Mhm.
250
Yeah.
mopeds. Submit your sealed bids, and we're only accepting sealed bids from out-of-state bidders. Because yeah, I can understand you don't want to sell them one by one because they'd wind up back on the streets.
And that'd be a lot of work for somebody. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just to have 100 at a time or whatever,
Yeah,
they
or
could
yeah,
have
or
made some money.
maybe two lots of 100. Okay, you can bid, yeah, you can bid on lot A for 100, bid on lot B for 100, or you can bid on both. And they could have sold them to the highest bidder as a group, providing they were
Mhm.
going to not be resold within the city of New York is a big place because it's the five boroughs: Staten Island,
Yeah.
Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. But no, they had to just run them over. So that was I consider that an incredible waste of taxpayer money. So. Anyway, you want to watch the video. All right.
Yeah.
Stupidest thing I've heard all week. So, by the way, many states have mandated that if you sell health insurance in their state, your health insurance policy must cover medically necessary hearing aids.
Hmm.
No big deal. It's just a line. It's just a line in a piece of in a piece of legislation, right?
Yep.
And no cost, no hassle, no commissions, no bureaucracy. But no, California, though, they wanted to do the same. They wanted to make sure that health insurance companies would cover medically necessary hearing aids. So in 2023, Governor Gavin Newsom was given a bill to sign that would have required exactly that. All he had to do was sign his name, and it would have been, and then in the next calendar year, it would have required all private insurance companies to cover hearing aids. I'm sorry, it was not for adults, for children up until the age of 18. So if you had a
Mhm.
child that was hard of hearing, all they had to do was sign the bill, and the state would have had no other involvement other than make sure that the law was being followed. But no, according to New York Post, Newsom vetoed that bill and decided instead to have the state provide those hearing aids. In other words, they set up a bureaucracy where if you had a child that was hard of hearing, you had to apply to the state you had to make an application for your child, and you had to provide doctor's notes and blah blah blah. Well, the result, they wound up providing hearing aids to 300 qualifying children. You know how much that bureaucracy and that the procedures cost for those 300 hearing aids?
I mean, hearing aids are not cheap, but I mean, that's a small fraction. They're probably, I mean, there's a few $1,000s each hearing aids.
Well, even if they were two or 3,000, um, you want to know what the program cost since Newsom decided no, we're not going to make
I
it a
mean, doing
law.
the math on that, I mean, it would be like $50,000 would have been more than enough to cover that.
How about $23 million,
What?
which worked out to $76,000 per person?
That's a lot of money.
And guess
But
what?
hearing aids don't cost that much. I mean, hearing aids are expensive, don't get me
It
wrong,
all
but
went to
hearing aids,
bureaucracy. It went to
if you paid for
bureaucracy.
them, wouldn't cost that much.
Right. And only 300 kids got them. There are still 20,000 children in California that still need hearing aids.
Mm.
Well done, Gavin. Can you imagine? This is bureaucracy at its finest.
But yeah,
And
just at cost. I mean, again, they're expensive, but at cost, it still would have been like what, 50 grand, right?
50 grand, yeah. So and all he had to do was sign the bill that was put on his desk that simply would have made it a legal requirement for insurance to cover kids, to cover hearing aids for kids up until the age of 18.
Mm.
All he had to do was sign the bill, but instead he spent $23 million of California taxpayer money to provide hearing aids for and it's only 300 people um, because people don't know about the program. It's complicated to apply for it, and you got to get doctor's notes. Anyway, $23 million to provide hearing aids for 300 people.
That in itself, a child, so hearing loss is obviously common among the older you get, the more common it is as we age. But it's devastating to a family to have a child who has hearing loss. And that's just another hurdle that the family already has. Like they already are dealing with so much trying to provide healthcare and
Right.
resources for their child. And you've just added another hurdle for that
Yeah.
family.
Yes. And there are some diseases, high fever diseases, that can also lead to a loss of hearing.
Mhm.
But, and so sad, again, 23 million for 300 hearing aids, and there are 20,000 children in California still need hearing aids
Yeah.
that aren't aware of the program or haven't been able to jump through all the hoops. So that's our runner-up for the So I don't know which is actually the stupidest thing, Gavin Newsom's hearing aid program or the department running over the mopeds. Which do you think should have been the winner?
Man, that's a tough one. I think it's ridiculous that Gavin Newsom did that. And I think it was also just, New York City wanting to make a spectacle. It was completely unnecessary to do that.
Yeah, what could they have done with that money if they just sold those things again, not one by one, but just, as a bulk or two bulk sales.
Yeah.
All right. Now, food. So we all know about food stamps, SNAPs, supplemental nutrition for. Anyway, and there's only certain things, you can't buy. You can't buy, hot. You can't go to McDonald's with your SNAP benefits, and you can't buy potato chips.
Yep.
But remember a couple of weeks ago we did this thing about the Connecticut with the 10-cent bottle deposit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what some people have figured out, these are the people who really don't need the food. They're somehow they figured out how to get SNAP benefits. And I've got a video here. I'll start playing in the middle. They're coming out with literally shopping carts stacked to the brim with maybe 5 or 6 cases of bottled water, cheap bottled water, which normally sells for about, 20 cents, less than 15 cents a bottle. But there's a 10-cent bottle deposit. So what they're coming out of the store with a shopping cart full of bottled water, and they're taking the cap and they're literally pouring the water out in the parking lot, and then they're going back inside the store to return the empty bottles for the bottle deposit. So, and here I'll just play a little clip. And if you can post the entire clip, because he's got picture after picture of people doing the same thing over and over and over. So here we go with this. And he's asking this guy, why are you doing this?
You dump water out of bottles to get the deposit and you pay for the water with your food stamps? That's what you just fucking said.
I'm trying to get home to my boyfriend stole my car keys.
Okay, but you're dumping my tax dollars on the ground? You don't pay taxes if you live in a car.
Anyway, and by the way, so clearly these people who are buying the water and dumping it, they're not hurting for food. They're not going hungry. So, one of the questions is, how do these people qualify for SNAP benefits to begin with? So just another news and perspective you won't hear on TV. You didn't hear about that. All right.
Did you hear about, building on the SNAP though, did you hear about the rotisserie chicken bill that's in Pennsylvania? That's actually Fetterman of all people, I believe is supporting it's called the rotisserie chicken addendum to the SNAP benefits.
That to allow people to buy rotisserie chicken?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, SNAP benefits can't be used to buy certain things in the store. It's for food. You can't go to McDonald's and buy it.
Right.
But you also can't buy like prepared food. Like a lot of grocery stores have like the Chinese like takeout restaurant you can't use it for that. But places like Costco and Sam's Club and other places that sell these rotisserie chickens that are only $4.99.
I know, $5
for a whole chicken. That's actually, I mean, that's cheaper than what you can buy the chicken for and take it home and bake it and have. And I mean, a rotisserie chicken lasts us 2 or 3 nights of,
Yeah, it's the size of a small turkey. We have it.
Yeah, they're good and they're cheap and they're delicious. And it's one of those I guess I mean it falls into the category of prepared foods like the Chinese food in the grocery store. So I guess it's coming down to how do you define what you can and can't buy with SNAP when it comes to these prepared foods? Because I actually think a rotisserie chicken, a person on SNAP benefits buying a rotisserie chicken, I mean that's like
Yeah.
3 meals.
Yeah, it's not like you can eat a rotisserie chicken with your bare hands. Again, you got to take it home and
You
cut
got to
it
take
up.
it home and do something with it, and then
Right.
leftovers you can make chicken salad or
Yeah.
whatever, or you
Well,
can
well, let's
boil
hope it,
the
let's
chicken and
hope
make
let's
soup or
hope his
whatever.
let's hope his amendment passes. I think
Yeah,
that's
so yeah, but I guess it's coming down to where do you draw the line on like the prepared food is the rotisserie chicken is okay, but the fried chicken that you buy in the 8 pack that's
yeah.
already cooked and take it home and eat it, like that would
Yeah.
that count too? I mean,
Well,
I think that's where they're getting into the weeds of it.
yeah, they are. All right. So, cars for kids, 1877 cars for.
Yeah,
Are you sick and tired of hearing that? It's
yeah,
been
I hear it
more
all
than
the
20
time.
years. By
Yeah.
the way, that ad plays in all 50 states. Well, as a result of a lawsuit filed by a man in California who donated his old car to Cars for Kid, and then found out what happened, he filed lawsuit, and a California judge has ordered Cars for Kids to stop running its 20-year-old radio ad in California in its current form. You want to know why?
Why?
Well, because the judge found that the ad is deceptive and does not disclose that the organization is a Jewish affiliated organization that only uses a small portion of the funds it receives, namely 4 cents on the dollar, to only benefit Jewish children living in the New York, New Jersey area, and
Oh,
does not spend even $1 of the money it receives in California.
interesting.
Did you know it was a Jewish organization?
I did not. No.
It also has a separate organization. Are you familiar with the Marine uh, uh, Ura, what the Marines say? Ura.
Yeah, yeah, hoorah.
Well, they have a sister division called Ura. And Cars for Kids donates 60% of its money to its sister charity named Ura, uh, which does not advertise
Mhm.
directly. But Ura also runs an adult dating site for Jewish adults, Jewish singles. And the 4 cents on the dollar that they do spend is spent primarily on kids from the New York, New Jersey area. And by the way, Cars for Kids is actually headquartered in Lakewood, New Jersey,
Oh, interesting.
and they spend most of that 4 cents on the dollar is spent sending Jewish kids to trips to Israel. And
Mhm.
URA, who gets 60% of the money that Cars for Kids raises, just spent $16.5 million. You know what they bought for $16.5 million?
What?
A building in Israel.
Wow.
So that's what you didn't know about Cars for Kids. So would you if you had a friend who was thinking about donating an old car to Cars for Kids, what would you tell them?
Actually, what's again going back to local fire departments around here, if you have a beater car that's no longer, can't be fixed anymore and not drivable anymore, donate it to your local fire departments and
Yep.
they will actually give you a tax donation letter that you can deduct from your taxes, a charitable contribution to your local fire department. And then the local fire department uses that for training for like how to use the jaws of life.
Yep.
Yeah, I know people who do it all the time.
Great idea. By the way, you're familiar with something called Charity Navigator?
Hmm.
Cars for Kids comes up as one of the lowest possible ratings on Charity Navigator. So, folks, my personal opinion, I wouldn't ever donate anything to Cars for Kids now that I understand that it's a religious affiliation. They don't spend, even though they advertise in all 50 states. People, the judge said you are deceptive. Number one, you don't disclose that you're a religious affiliated organization. Two, you don't tell people that none of the money, that unless they live in New York and New Jersey, that none of the money or the cars they're donating will go to the state they live in. And it's just that, so she read him the riot act, and I hope other states follow the lead of California, because this is just shocking, and I had no idea. I've been listening to that damn ad. Like, it drives me nuts when I hear it over and over and over. I didn't realize it was 20 years. It is,
Yeah, and if you
but
have a beater car, just contact your local fire
yeah,
department and get a charitable contribution letter
right.
from them.
Yep,
They'll
exactly,
happily put it to good use.
exactly. All right. So redistricting. So this is not a federal. This is just he's on the Indiana legislature, and Indiana's going through its own redistricting battle. And some people are, well, you shouldn't be doing this in the middle of term. Well, he comes out and he's saying why he is proud and not embarrassed at all to be leading the redistricting effort in the state of Indiana. And here we go.
Some will say these maps are political. Let me be clear. Let's see, it's political. These streets are political. Look at Indianapolis. Affordable electricity is political. Drug-free Indiana is political. Peace in the Middle East is political. Dealt with it firsthand. If drawing a map that secures 2 more seats for the Republican Party means that we continue to see overdose deaths drop by 20%, then I'll draw that map every single day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Come on.
If drawing a map means that we'll continue to see a 93% drop in illegal immigration, and I'll sign it with a smile on my face. We're not here to be neutral arbiters of decline. We're here to be active agents of American greatness.
All right. So what did you think of that? He's not embarrassed at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
people are definitely abusing the redistricting. It's gerrymandering, drawing the lines that support, one party or the other party.
But it's been going on for decades.
It's been going on. It's been going on since as long as we've had districts in the United States.
If you look at the map of Illinois, you wouldn't believe it looks like a drunk worm drew the congressional districts in Illinois. All right, how much time we got, by the way?
You have about 8 minutes.
All right, so we're gonna go real quick. Any idea how many people a year die from automobile accidents?
A lot.
You want to take a wild guess?
1 million.
No, 40,000.
Oh. Okay.
40,000, which is about
it's lower than I thought.
About 800 people a week. And this includes pedestrians hit by cars. And so a doctors group has come out saying, we are 100% behind the switch to autonomous vehicles. And think about it. Look how many drunk drivers, look how many elderly people, look how many people are driving while texting.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, yes, autonomous vehicles are not perfect. But if you look at the deaths per 100,000 miles, and they've got hundreds of thousands of miles because some of these Waymo vehicles in places like San Francisco have been on the road now for a couple of years. They say the death rate for autonomous vehicles is a tiny fraction of what it is for. So say you got a DUI and when you lose your license, well, you can get a Waymo. You can get an autonomous vehicle as long as you're not behind the wheel. You're sitting in the back seat. So I think I think this doctors group is spot on that switching to autonomous vehicles is absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly have their issues, and it's been in the news a lot recently with their issues. There was actually a really great segment on 60 Minutes this past weekend about Waymo coming. Well, they call it something different in London, but going to London.
Yep, I watched the segment. Absolutely.
And last week there was an issue in Atlanta, Georgia about them all getting stuck on some residential street.
Yeah. But they
certainly have their issues, but like you said, drunk driving. Now I can't remember if this was London or another town. There's a policy that the town says if you want Waymos in this town, they can't be, quote, driverless, which they are. Somebody has to be sitting in the driver's seat. Now, if that law applied to your town, and so what? I have to sit in the driver's seat. Doesn't mean I have to pay attention.
That's right.
That law in itself is a little ridiculous because,
bureaucrats. But anyway, so even if 1,000 people a year were killed by autonomous vehicles, it's a tiny fraction of what's actually happening. Imagine 800 people a week are currently being killed, which includes pedestrians hit by cars, by the way. And 800 a week is about 120 people a day are being killed, which, by the way, I think 120 days, 50 people every hour are being killed in automobile accidents. So anyway, so let's move on.
And they brought up, though, about not stopping for school buses. There's certainly glitches that need to be worked out, but overall,
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. We don't have time to go in a lot of detail, but we talked about Frank Abagnale at the beginning of the. It turns out, there's been several people, newspaper investigator have gone into. Almost everything he claimed was fake. And I've got the link. You can post it on the Jerzee Joe website. But he was in jail, something. Well, I was an airline pilot. No, he was in jail. He led a life of fraud, scamming people out of stuff. He was in and out of jail. He didn't do 80% of the stuff he claimed he did, but he made a fortune. He sold his fake story to I think it was Steven Spielberg did Catch Me If You Can, the movie
Mhm.
with Leo DiCaprio, and he was getting 30,000 a pop. He sold a couple of million copies of his book. It was all a fraud. It was a
Yeah.
hoax. So, so if you want to read the detail, go to the Jersey Joe website.
Yeah, I think they definitely took probably some liberties with the movie for sure.
Yep.
But he does, and he can't actually work for the FBI because he's a criminal,
Right.
a convicted criminal. But he does actually consult with the FBI on.
Yeah. Right.
So in a roundabout way, he's working for the FBI.
Right. But anyway, so Catch Me If You Can, they didn't know it at the time, but it was based on a fraud, based on a hoax. All right. Since we're running short on time, I'm just going to dive right into our taxpayer relief shop in Boulder, Colorado. Here we go.
Right now, 7 News uncovering new information on a Boulder home invasion. A 19-year-old killed inside this house, shot by the homeowner. And 7 News reporter Jennifer Kovaleski has been in that neighborhood all day talking to neighbors who say that 19-year-old also banged on their doors, too.
That's when I saw a man, and he was running straight into the door with a sprint.
Brock Derby says he watched it all happen. He lives next door to where an intruder broke in on Pima Court after hearing 3 loud bangs.
Got up to run outside.
And by the way, you're going to hear about as you look at this house from the outside, it has like a big window. So he's got like a cathedral ceiling above the door,
Mhm.
and you can see this massive elk head mounted on the wall. You
Mhm.
can see it from the outside of the house, and this plays a part in the story.
And then I heard gunshots as I was running outside.
This is kind of unnerving because it's never happened in our neighborhood before.
It happened at around 8:30 last night. Boulder police say the intruder tried to break into several other houses before shattering the glass door and bursting through the front door of this home.
He actually knocked the male occupant down on the ground, and they struggled on the ground for a while. I don't think he was seriously injured. He did tell us that he feared for his life.
Investigators say the homeowner shot and killed the intruder with a handgun. No charges have been filed, and police say it could fall under Colorado's Make My Day law. Under that law, a person is justified in using deadly force on any person who breaks into their home.
I can't say yes or no at this point because, again, that's going to be a decision that the DA makes. Jim did what he had to do.
Neighbors tell us the intruder picked the wrong home because the homeowner is an avid hunter.
I think his was the worst one to break into. Just knowing him, I mean, when you see a giant elk head on a wall, you generally gotta, next to a gun safe, you gotta know that the guy's probably packing.
Yeah, you can see the elk head from outside the house. You look through this
Yeah.
big window, you see the elk head on the wall from outside the house.
I suspect that unless you live like in downtown Denver or downtown,
Yeah,
most people in Colorado probably have guns in the house.
it is.
Identified the intruder as 19-year-old Roberto Zamora.
Well, we don't need to. Anyway, 19-year-old kid picked the wrong house. It's like, breaking into a house in Texas. All right.
Yeah.
We're running out of time. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
Today's the Pennsylvania primary. I voted on my way to work this morning. We always talk about how these primary elections and these non-presidential years are just as important as the presidential election. So I think New Jersey's primary is coming up in a couple weeks, right?
Yep. But I think June the 10th. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, folks, I want to thank you for anybody listening for giving up 30 minutes out of your busy day to listen to me ramble on about the things that I find of interest and importance. And I hope you found them as interesting and important as I did. If you want to see some of the materials and story links, particularly some of the videos that didn't have a lot of audio, like the bulldozers going over the bikes or the guys dumping out the water to get the 10-cent per bottle deposit back, give producer Susan a couple of days and she'll have those links up on the website, which is jerziejoe.com, and that's spelled J-E-R as in Robert, Z as in zebra, E-E, Jerzee, jerziejoe.com, no space. And if you'd like me to send you one of those links directly, just send me an email to joe@jerziejoe.com. Or if you'd like to suggest, if you have any questions, you want to suggest a show topic, or you want to get on our mailing list so you don't have to go search for the podcast, just send me an email to joe@jerziejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jersey with an R, a Z, and 2 E's. And with that, producer Susan, anything you want to add before we sign off?
Nope. Stay cool. It's hot out there.
It is. All right. Talk to you next week. You take care. Bye-bye.